The Caribbean sun was blazing, but what unfolded beneath its glare was far from ordinary. On the calm waters of the 3rd of September, 2025, a seemingly harmless cargo ship cut across the horizon. At 110 meters long and weighing over 7,200 tons, it looked like just another vessel on the busy shipping lanes. Yet behind its steel hull lay a nightmare, one that would trigger one of the most daring U.S. military strikes in recent history. Inside this ship, operated by the notorious Tren de Aragua cartel, investigators later discovered 300 tons of methamphetamine precursors, chemicals that could be refined into nearly 190 tons of crystal meth, valued at over $569 million on the U.S. black market. Alongside them were 13,000 barrels of cash, close to $450 million, meant to finance assassinations, buy weapons, and expand cartel influence. Worst of all, 42 civilians were chained as forced laborers, prisoners trapped on a floating fortress of terror. The stakes could not have been higher. This wasn't just about drugs. It was about dismantling an empire that had left behind more than 2,000 murders and 3,500 human trafficking cases. But the challenge was immense. How do you strike such a target without killing the hostages? This is where technology changed the battlefield. Instead of relying on heavy cruise missiles, the Pentagon deployed a swarm of small kamikaze drones, each the size of a motorcycle but carrying advanced AI-guided warheads. Flying just above the waves, invisible to radar, they could strike with surgical precision. For the first time, a cartel ship would face a storm not of bombs, but of intelligent machines designed to cripple without collateral damage. And as the sun reached its peak, America prepared to make its move. For decades, Tren de Aragua had been more than a cartel. It operated like a shadow army, spreading fear from the barrios of Venezuela to the streets of Miami, Houston, and New York. Intelligence linked the group to more than 2,000 murders and 3,500 cases of human trafficking. Their operations were protected by political corruption, fueled by billions in narcotics, and reinforced with the kind of brutality usually reserved for insurgent militias. The ship moving north that morning was not simply transporting contraband. It was a lifeline loaded with enough chemicals to flood America with 1.5 billion street doses of meth. It carried 13,000 barrels of currency to grease the wheels of corruption and violence. To leave this ship untouched would mean leaving death adrift, inching closer to U.S. shores. Washington knew the cost of inaction. And so, by 11:05 a.m., the chessboard was set. From a covert base in Curaçao, the Pentagon launched 50 reconnaissance kamikaze UAVs. Each drone, powered by AI-driven targeting systems, could fly at speeds exceeding 300 miles per hour while hugging the ocean's surface at just 150 feet. Their warheads, small but devastating, were designed to destroy weapons, caches, fuel drums, and fortified guard posts while avoiding civilian compartments. Collectively, their firepower rivaled 2 Tomahawk cruise missiles, but their precision made them far deadlier. Meanwhile, the sea carried its own hidden dagger. Just 8 nautical miles from the target, a fishing trawler drifted innocently on the waves, outwardly unremarkable. Inside it concealed 200 U.S. Navy SEALs. Equipped with Mk-29 rebreather diving systems, they could remain submerged for 6 hours without leaving a single bubble on the surface. These men were the silent blade beneath the storm, waiting for the signal to rise from the depths. The plan was brutally simple, yet terrifying in execution. Drones would sow chaos from above, while SEALs breached from below. Simultaneous strikes would blind the cartel's communications, crush their defenses, and neutralize their fighters before they could harm the hostages. Every angle had been calculated, every second synchronized. The cartel believed it was just another day at sea. But in truth, the countdown to annihilation had already begun. At exactly 11:22 a.m., the order was given. From beyond the horizon, the swarm appeared 50 kamikaze drones, skimming the waves like shadows of steel. Each one, no larger than a motorcycle, hugged the ocean's surface at 300 miles per hour. To the naked eye, they were invisible until it was too late. Then, in a synchronized surge, they climbed sharply, locked onto their targets, and dove. The first impact struck the stern. A 40-pound warhead detonated against a machine gun nest, shredding steel plating and killing 3 guards instantly. Seconds later, the ship erupted with thunder. Within half a minute, more than a dozen explosions rocked the vessel. Bulkheads split open, flames tore skyward, and fuel drums burst into fireballs. Panic spread like wildfire. Cartel fighters scrambled to their posts, some firing blindly into the sky, others rushing to the hostage compartments. But the drones weren't random. Guided by AI algorithms, they bypassed the cargo holds containing civilians and instead targeted weapons, caches, ammunition lockers, and defensive strongpoints. One drone punched into a forward storage bay packed with 4,000 rounds of 7.62mm ammunition. Its detonation triggered a chain of secondary explosions that ripped through 4 compartments. In just under 5 minutes, the cartel's command structure was collapsing. 37 precision strikes had eliminated nearly every heavy weapon emplacement. Communications equipment worth millions lay in twisted ruins. The bridge was blind, the crew deaf, and chaos ruled every deck. Above the burning fortress, plumes of smoke rose hundreds of feet into the Caribbean sky. Below, the ocean remained deceptively calm. There, within 500 yards of the crippled ship, 200 Navy SEALs waited silently, watching through the haze of fire and steel. The drones had done their work. The stage was set. And as the last UAV slammed into the communications tower, the signal was clear. It was time for the warriors beneath the sea to rise. At 11:28 a.m., the sea itself came alive. From every direction, shadows surged upward. 200 Navy SEALs, emerging like ghosts from the abyss, broke the surface. Suppressed MP-7 submachine guns in hand, magnetic grapples clipped to their belts, they kicked silently toward the burning hulk. Within moments, steel claws bit into the ship's hull, and the first squads began their climb. The defenders, stunned by the drone barrage, had no time to regroup before the next storm arrived. 90 seconds later, the first SEAL team breached the portside deck. Moving with lethal precision, they cleared 4 rooms in under 40 seconds. 6 cartel fighters dropped, each felled by single, surgical shots. On the starboard side, breachers applied thermite charges to a locked bulkhead. Sparks flared, steel glowed red, and a stun grenade rolled inside. A flash of light and sound left 8 guards writhing on the floor, their rifles slipping from their hands. The battle now raged deck by deck. Smoke choked the corridors as gunfire echoed through steel walls. Near the engine room, an entrenched cartel squad poured hundreds of rounds down a narrow passage. A SEAL fire team answered with coordinated bursts, advancing behind flashbangs and precision fire. 3 Americans were hit shoulder, thigh, forearm, but none stopped fighting. Within minutes, the engine compartment was secured. The most critical moment came at 11:35 a.m. Team Bravo, guided by infrared scans, stormed the forward cargo hold. Inside, 42 civilians lay shackled in chains. Guards tried to use them as human shields, dragging prisoners in front of their rifles. But laser-sighted fire from the SEALs cut them down in under 10 seconds. Shock turned to relief as the captives were freed. Medics moved quickly, stabilizing the weakest while others guarded the perimeter. By 11:40, the tide had turned. Nearly 70% of the ship was under U.S. control. Surveillance systems were disabled, the bridge shattered, and the cartel's remaining fighters fled deeper below deck, blind and desperate. The fortress that had once terrorized nations was now fractured, carved apart compartment by compartment. The operation was no longer a gamble, it was a victory in motion. By 11:48 a.m., silence fell over the vessel. The roar of gunfire gave way to the crackle of flames and the heavy boots of American soldiers sweeping the decks. In less than half an hour, a cartel fortress had been reduced to a smoldering carcass of steel. The casualty count was decisive. 9 cartel gunmen lay dead, including 2 mid-level commanders. Over 120 fighters were captured, many too wounded to resist. Among them were 3 regional coordinators, men directly responsible for smuggling pipelines into Miami and Houston. Their capture represented the collapse of entire branches of Trinidadia's empire. But the seizures told the true scale of the victory. Deep inside the cargo holds, SEAL teams uncovered 300 tons of methamphetamine precursors, stored in steel drums disguised as fertilizer. Experts confirmed this stockpile could be refined into 190 tons of crystal meth, enough to unleash 5 billion doses on the streets of America. On the open market, the value exceeded $569 million. The financial shock was equally staggering. Hidden compartments yielded 13,000 barrels of cash bundles of US dollars, Colombian pesos, and Venezuelan bolivars stacked in neat rows. An estimated $450 million in liquid assets, the financial bloodstream of the cartel, was stripped away in a single morning. For the 42 hostages, the nightmare ended in chains broken and freedom restored. As U.S. helicopters thundered overhead to extract the rescued civilians, the captured cartel fighters, and the seized contraband, a powerful message was already echoing across the Western Hemisphere. Hours later, in Washington, Secretary of State Marco Rubio addressed the nation. This is a warning. To anyone plotting to bring narcotics into the United States, be prepared for annihilation. Tren de Aragua thought they were untouchable. Today, they are broken. Umbre. The waters of the Caribbean closed over the wreck of a shattered empire. What remained was proof of American resolve and a chilling reminder of the cost of challenging it. On the 3rd of September, 2025, the Caribbean witnessed a battle that will be remembered for decades. In just 26 minutes, the United States dismantled the heart of one of the most violent cartels in the Western Hemisphere. 300 tons of meth precursors seized, 13,000 barrels of cash confiscated, 42 innocent lives rescued. What was once a floating fortress of fear became a symbol of American resolve. But the story does not end here. Tren de Aragua may be broken, but cartels across the region are watching. Will this strike send shockwaves of deterrence, forcing them into retreat? Or will it ignite retaliation, sparking an even bloodier chapter in the war on drugs? The answer will shape not only the future of U.S. security, but the lives of millions across the Americas. This operation showed the power of precision technology, the courage of elite warriors, and the high stakes of a global fight against organized crime. Yet it also leaves us with difficult questions. How far should nations go to secure their borders? And can military might alone dismantle an empire built on fear, money, and corruption? I turn that question to you. What do you think? Did this mission deliver lasting justice or just a temporary victory? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you value in-depth analysis of global conflicts and security, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss the next story shaping our world.